like you need a founder with energy that's not going to give up, because businesses fail for two reasons, and two reasons only. One, they get underwater on debt or capital and they can't get above water. They overraise, whether it's, again, debt or equity, that it's just now the business isn't worth anything to the founders. Or two, the leaders give up. That's it. Other than that, there's always a pivot. There's always an adjustment. There's always another life. There's always something to do. But that's why being an investor, like, you need to know that the person's going to run through a wall, because there's going to be headwinds at times.
Dear friends, it's Kurt Derdix, and welcome back. If this is your first time listening, I am so glad you found us. This week, I'm excited to share my conversation with my friend and fellow Ventura County native, Erik Huberman. We explore his journey from growing up in Ojai to founding Hawke Media, the fastest growing marketing agency on the West Coast. We explore the power of emotional connection and branding, paralleling Nike's strategy, and delve into Erik's best-selling book, The Hawke Method, emphasizing the importance of awareness, nurture, and trust in brand building. And we get practical. We delve into the perils of client concentration risk, the role of in-house recruiters, growth strategy involving M&A, and Hawke Ventures, a VC fund that he spun out of the agency that's crushing it, and recently recruited legendary investor Clark Landry to the team. And additionally, we touched on the impact of AI on the economy and the importance of adaptability, networking, and resilience in business. In our conversation, we got real. We cover the challenges of managing energy and balancing business with personal life, and Erik shares his personal story of overcoming intense anxiety during a tumultuous period, highlighting the significance of empathy and self-care. I was really moved by Erik's story and his transparency and just how smart he is. He's definitely one of the good guys. We're so lucky to have him in Los Angeles. The number of insights we packed into this episode is fantastic. So without further ado, on to today's show. Here's Erik. Hey, Erik Huberman, buddy, so good to see you.
You too, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, 2024. I met you 5 years ago, 2019. And I think it was Paige Craig who introduced us.
That's probably right.
Yeah. And he's like, Erik is amazing. I just invested in his fund. He's just the man. And Paige was on the show a couple episodes back. And nice. What a great guy.
Yeah. No, he's fun. He was in town a little while ago. I got to see him.
Yeah. He just had his second baby.
Yep.
We love Paige. So you and I, I'm a few years older than you, but we both grew up in Ventura County. You grew up in Ojai, right?
Yes, sir.
I love it. I grew up in Ventura, and I was looking you up on LinkedIn, and you went to Oak Grove School, which is amazing. And not enough people know about this school.
No, it's awesome. I love that school. I don't donate it to my college, but I donate to Oak Grove. It's super alternative school. I have 11 kids in my graduating class from high school, but it goes preschool through high school. It's like 130 or 140 students all the way through. Founded by an Indian philosopher named Jiddu Krishnamurti. I think Montessori-esque is the best way to put it, but basically felt like I grew up in a great education while also going to summer camp. It was awesome.
Yeah, I love that. And there's that tree on campus, right?
Well, it's an oak grove. It's literally an oak.
Isn't there like some famous like tree that he used to meditate under, I thought, perhaps?
Oh, yeah. Turtle Rock, the tree.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yep. One of my best friends and mentors, Duke Stump, was on the show, episode 50, and his kids went there, and he's really involved in it's incredible school. Yeah, and then you went to college, and then tell me about Hawke Media. What was the kind of the genesis and the origin story? By the way, I love your podcast. Everybody got to check out Erik's podcast. Yeah, and he talks about origin story. That's sort of the conceit of the show, and it's awesome. So I'm gonna flip the script.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the start of Hawke Media. Basically, I built and sold 2 e-commerce companies. Started advising and consulting after that for a bunch of other businesses around LA to try to help them figure out how to use marketing and digital to grow, and just saw how broken the marketing ecosystem was. And it hasn't gotten any better. Thankfully, I think we're one solution, but there were 25,000 digital agencies in the US when I started Hawke a decade ago. There's now 88,000. And I would argue that 99+% of them have no idea what they're doing when it comes to growing a business. And so it's just, there's no barrier to entry. So all these people go out and sell snake oil. And I just got sick of it and decided I needed to hire a team that actually could execute what I knew actually worked and built businesses. And that was the birth of it. And that was never intended on building something big. I actually thought I was going to build this little SWAT team and then build my own brands. But then pretty quickly I went, wait, this is really fun. I get to grow other businesses by growing my own, and I get to, play with different things all the time. And I get, we're actually good at this. And, fast forward 10 years, it'll be 10 years this weekend. We've got 200 employees. We've grown. Actually, the number is we've worked with 4,755 brands decade to date. And we've, managed billions of dollars in advertising and got our venture fund, built an AI tool, have been able to do all sorts of great stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. 200 folks, that's great. You wrote a book, The Hawke Method. I'm looking on Amazon here. After helping 3,000 brands find success through his holistic approach, a lot more now, Erik has distilled the art of marketing into 3 core elements: awareness, nurture, and trust. Without all 3, the system fails. How did you come to that framework?
It happened organically. Part of our job, let's say we've worked with, again, just under 5,000 brands. That means we've probably talked to 50,000. And part of our job is to go in and look at a business and go, oh, this is what we can do to help. This is where you're having problems, and run an analysis. And I started doing that from the beginning. My first thing I would do with companies that wanted me to work with them was go look at their analytics, go look at their advertising, and go, oh, these are things that are broken. And over time, I started to realize that generally the challenges fell into 3 buckets: awareness, nurturing, and trust. Are you creating awareness for your company, introducing it to new potential customers? Are you then nurturing those customers to actually get them to become a customer, and then post-purchase to get them to keep buying and create lifetime value? And then how are you building trust, credibility, brand, and what are you doing instill that? And then I started getting asked to speak at conferences and talk about how marketing works. And pretty quickly, it just turned into this talk about awareness, nurturing, and trust, and how it all fit in there, because I would talk to that every day, all day, when I was talking to companies that were looking to work with us, and companies that did work with us, while we're analyzing how things are going, where they need to improve, where we need to make changes. It always fell into those 3 buckets. And so, fast forward, after it was about how long we were in business, probably 7 years in, I decided by meeting someone that it was like, hey, I'd love to help you write a book. I'm like, well, it'd be interesting to, sort of memorialize this strategy and what I've been talking about here. And when we launched it, my favorite review came in the first day. It was a 1-star review on Amazon that's since been deleted, sadly. But it was a 1-star review that said, I don't get it. It's just modern marketing 101. Like, yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Well, I think kind of looking at your hat, and you have the Hawke, the red Hawk, and you spell Hawke with an E. Talk to me about that. Obviously it's intentional. What's sort of the conceit behind that?
No, it's when I started Hawke, back to the point, I think it's important. I did not think I was building a big company. I thought I was doing something for the next few months while I figured out what was next. I didn't want to name it Huberman Marketing or Consulting. If in case it went somewhere, Hawke without the E, or Hawke like spelled correctly, was taken. So I went, what if I had an E? Oh, perfect. Hawke Media, done.
Well, it's interesting because it is different, and you kind of do like look at it and notice it, and it's kind of stands out. I mean, it's.
Well, I'm a firm believer that a brand is what you make of it. Google, Facebook, Amazon, take in Microsoft, like these names mean nothing. Their meaning isn't placed into them. So I've never been. My view is like name something, and the logo. I think the logo needs to be a symbol that people can rally around, but that symbol needs to mean more internally than externally. So like the Hawke meant something to me. I liked the logo. I thought it was something. It was something to build a culture around. That's really what was the main focus there.
What does it mean to you, or what did it at the time, and how has it evolved?
Growing up in Ojai, when I was 7, I had a Chumash chief tell me that red-tailed hawks were my spirit animal.
I love that.
Stuck with me growing up. And when I was naming the company, I actually was originally going to call it Growth Hacker Group. And I had a partner that was like, do not use hacker in your name. I just signed Walmart as a client. They would never sign a contract that says hacker on it. Like, that's a good point. Like, just keep it simple, like something you like. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And then I went back. I still, like, I can see it in my head, sitting in my bed on GoDaddy at like 9 o'clock at night, trying names in GoDaddy to see what's not taken. And here's where we are.
Yeah, my mentor, Duke Stump, he's in Ojai now, the one that his kids went to Oak Grove. I think Forbes calls him top 50 CMO in the market. He was at Nike forever, and he put 7th generation on the map, turned Lululemon around. And when I was at Lime, we recruited him to be our CMO at Lime. And he's an incredible guy. And he comes from a principles-based framework around first principles. And one of the things he talks about is you can't create the magic, but you can create the conditions for the magic.
Yep.
and that this idea from his point of view as a brand is sort of a mosaic, and it's everything you do, like from the, every is a brushstroke on this mosaic. And fast forward a year, everything that you've done, that mosaic emerges.
And I love that metaphor because I also talk about like the consistency of what you do is what becomes your brand. And so mosaic is the metaphor that gets more brushstrokes. So the things that you do the most of are what pop out when you create that mosaic. And so, that's what people think of are the things that you deliver most consistently.
Mm-hmm. What's a brand you guys have worked with and helped, that you're most grateful for, or most proud of the work you guys did?
I mean, there's tons, anywhere from like really cool things like the Getty Museum has been a client forever. And, that's just been cool because of how much art and how much, we've been able to have about that. But like, again, there's so many, there's different reasons for different ones. There's not like my favorite brand of all time. It's like I've been working with FabFitFun because we were one of their first investors too. And they literally opened up the world of investing to me and like investing in businesses. So that was awesome. There's even Barstool Sports because we were able to launch ecom for them and like look what they turned into. And like, that's the satisfaction is like when you're a part of an early company that then turns into a powerhouse with your help. Obviously, we don't take credit for it, but we are a part of it. And so that's really rewarding. And it's fun to get the big flagship. We've worked with Nike, we've worked with some of the big guys. And like those are fun to know that we can play in those ponds too. But the reward is really where you're like really transforming something. And that does happen with big businesses too. But it's more common with those middle market companies, those smaller companies get in early, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I'm sure in some of these friendships and relationships you've made are just, and the whole thing is reflexive and it just feeds on each other and referrals and, all that.
Yep.
The other insight that I got from Duke he was at Nike for 15 years, ended up as VP over there and both in marketing and product. And he said that Nike had sort of two core principles. The first principle was what's sort of the market insight that is sort of valid around this new product or this new initiative, right?
Yeah.
And that was, and in that, embedded in that is being really attuned to the emerging future and kind of what's kind of coming, immersive in that context. And the other one, so the first one was insight. And then the second one is what's the emotion that we want to create?
Which is huge. People use logic to justify emotions, but we're emotional creatures. So that's where Nike's won in that game. They've done an incredible job building a brand where emotionally you feel good when you buy stuff. You buy their shoes, you feel like you're going to run faster, jump higher. Like this is what they've done. And so that is marketing in a lot of ways. Like playing to the emotional side of it is huge. And usually positive emotion. I see a lot of people try to go negative. I don't think it's as effective in that way. Yeah.
So you wrote the book, Robert Greene wrote 48 Laws of Power, incredible book. And then he wrote, two additional, the 50th rule. I did that with 50 Cent. Is there anything on deck as far as another book? Are there other insights that you had that you'd like to kind of get out to the world that aren't referenced there?
Never say never, but no, it was also for me, like I wanted to do it. I did it. It's, it's kind of like, I'm very much like, I want to check the box. I want to know that I did it. I went all in on it. We got a bestseller. It's gone great. It still continues to sell great copies and Audible has gone crazy with it. Mm-hmm. So that it's fun, but it was never meant to be a, massive, I never thought that I'd be an ongoing writer and I'd be the next, what's his name? The guy that's Simon Sinek or something like that's not what I'm going for. That doesn't mean there won't be another book. But if I'm going to do it, it's going to be because I feel very compelled to put out a message, not because I'm trying to find the topic of my next book.
Anything you wish you would have done different or anything that you look at the book now and cringe a little bit around?
Yeah, I put too much emphasis into trying to get a New York Times bestseller and just hitting the PR train and trying to push the hell out of it. And you realize like it's way more editorial and they weren't going to put a business book as a bestseller and my business book that who knows who I am, et cetera. And it's like, I wasted a lot of time, money, and effort on something that really didn't matter. And so that's it. And I would say like at a time when I'm still, I'm still running this company fully. So to go and put all that effort on top of running a business into launching a book, and it just, I definitely experienced burnout back then. And so the next time I would be a lot more calculated into what I put into it, what I want to get out of it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I want to talk to you about too, is how you manage your energy. Because I'm very impressed. I follow you on Instagram, and your travel schedule, and the amount of miles and all the stuff you're doing is remarkable. And but kind of stepping back in the context of Hawke Media, you were a back channel reference for me when I got hired at Hunt Club. And I was a GM there, and I appreciate that. That was very nice of you. And I had a great run. I was there 3 years and kind of lit up some big channels for the company, Sequoia, A16Z, and kind of put them on the map for the West Coast. And just loved Nick Cromitis. He's amazing. And I remember pitching you and your co-founder Tony about recruiting. And you're like, love you, Curdy, but we don't really use recruiters. It's sort of like not our thing. And have you guys to this day ever used a recruiter out of curiosity?
Yeah. But we don't really. I mean, if you think about it, our business are people. So remember, recruiters usually charge a contingency fee on top of a person's salary. Well, I mean, that's our entire product. So we're just adding it added an insane cost to our most core cost at our business. Mm-hmm. Just from a business model standpoint, doesn't make sense for the vast majority of our hires. Yeah. And then because of that, we built a lot of it. We have 2 full-time recruiters in-house. We built an infrastructure of our own to do it because that's where it pencils. And so then we have that capability. Then we don't need it,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In that same breath, what are sort of the, like in a services business, you don't really have COGS per se. You have cost of sales, right? Like how do you sort of think about the accounting, and what are the the reports, and how are the KPIs that you really pay attention to?
Oh, I mean, I've got a bunch of reporting that I look at daily from our accounting, and whether it's our accounting, our projections, our sales funnel, our retention numbers, all of that I get daily, so I can see like how everything's trending. I have pacing reports of how we're pacing compared to where our goals are. I have all set up, so anytime I have a free minute, want to see how things are trending and where I need to spend my time, I can go look. Yeah.
Are you guys think you'll ever do a YPP model where you start? I mean, you guys have made some acquisitions. I think I saw one come through the news recently.
Yeah, we made 4 last year, so we made 12, I think, total. The M&A model is great when you get to an agency our size. Organic growth is going to slow from a percentage basis. It's just not going to be as easy to dump a bunch of business in and hire new salespeople and grow really fast, or me go out on the road and drum up a bunch of business. That doesn't have an effect at this size, and M&A becomes a really good way to grow.
Yeah, I fundamentally, from a first principles point of view, I feel like if a marketing agency is having trouble getting work, I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say totally. But when you get to a certain size that you want, they call it feed the beast. At the same time, you get to a certain size, you're percentage-wise, you're going to be losing a certain amount of business, and you're going to be gaining. And there's a line in management. The first day you sign a client is the first day they start working towards firing you, or something along those lines. But you're going to lose business as an agency. Every single agency on the planet, after it's been in a year in business for at least a couple of years, you're going to lose business, and so you have to replace that. Well, at scale, that number becomes bigger, and so. It happened locally with Phelps. Whole Foods was 85% of their revenue, and then Amazon bought them. Now Phelps is gone. So if you want to keep something long-term and sustainable, and again, we're about to celebrate a decade. We're totally bootstrapped. We haven't raised money. You got to, fight for that.
Have you ever had to battle that concentration risk with a big client?
No, I purposely avoided it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a dance with the devil.
Yeah, it really is. It sucks. And thankfully we haven't, but I can already tell, we have clients that don't understand our business. And sometimes, in the past or, years ago, we'd have clients that thought they were that and would try to muscle it. They try to cram us on fees or do something that's like, well, if I leave, then what are you going to do? It's like, it's going to be fine. Thankfully, not a single client. We don't have any points of failure like that.
I want to get into the VC Hawke Ventures, and I saw the news of Clark Landry joining the team, which is legendary. That's incredible. Congrats. Yeah. One of the best angel investors in the market.
Yep.
Just kind of hearing the momentum in the story, it seems like, Hawke Ventures is almost like your original idea for the business.
No, it's definitely not the original idea. Again, what happened was, I mentioned this a little while ago, but FabFitFun, the founders were pivoting to e-commerce. They wanted me to invest. They said that. They said, hey, we're pivoting. We want you to be on our cap table. I was like, guys, I don't invest in startups. They're like, no, we're not asking. We're telling you. It can be a small check, but you're in. So I did that, and they took off quickly. And I went, okay, so I shouldn't be so stubborn about this. I should look at it. I invested in, I think it was 7 companies over the course of 3 years. My average on paper return then was 11x. It just crushed it. And so I was like, okay, I should probably deploy more capital and do this, in a systematic way. And we created Ventures. Our first fund, deployed that over, I think it was 3 years in terms of primary, and invested in 18 companies. We've had some really big wins out of that. So we decided to go for fund 2, end of 21, raised a good chunk of it, closed it, have been deploying since, are about to do our last close. But, we've invested in, I think, on fund 2, we have a different strategy of like putting in tracker checks into deals pretty consistently. So we invested in a lot of companies already. I think we're at like 32 companies already out of that fund. And then we doubled down on, I believe, 5 so far, where we put real checks into work.
Yeah, that's a new concept to me, a tracker check. Is that basically like a fake trade when you're just not making, or are you actually putting a real
No, we're putting real hard. So we put 50 grand usually into a deal. And then the idea is we then get the chance. So where it came from was we want to do a lot more diligence on deals than most early stage investors will, because most early stage investors, there's no diligence to do. For us, we're investing in marketing technology. Let's have our team use it. Let's integrate it. Let's see how brands like it. Let's actually go to work with this and see if the market actually will do it. Well, it turns out asking a 6-month-old business to spend 6 months of diligence to raise $500,000, not going to work. So we decided, let's do the initial like standard sort of VC diligence. If we like the deal, think there's a thesis there, let's put 50 grand in to show skin in the game, then do that 3 to 6 months of diligence, spend time with them, see how it works, and then double down with, $500,000 to $1.5 million.
Oh, I like that. That makes a lot of sense. That's really smart.
It shows we're serious, but then we get a chance to actually see if this becomes a good partner. Because to be clear, like, we don't follow on sometimes, not just because not because we think it's going to be a bad outcome, but also just because we can't be a strategic advantage for them. And as much as it's a great deal and we've got money in it, that's not where we're going to get a lever on our time. And that's important.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Where did you learn that framework from?
We came up with it. It was Drew. Drew had the idea for the tracker check, our original partner on the first fund. And, but the diligence was of like core. Like, we're like, that's the whole point. If we can't be a strategic advantage for these companies we're investing in, then we're just buying lottery tickets. I hate that.
Yeah. Is Drew still on the team?
He's an advisor, but no, he actually moved to New Zealand.
Oh, wow. He's a great guy. Drew Leahy. I love him. Yeah. And so fund 1, are you disclosing how large the funds were?
The fund was 5.6 million, seconds 25.
Yeah, great. And I referred Drew a few investors. So hopefully that all works out. I think what kind of where my mind is thinking is like the integration between the two businesses with Hawke Media and Hawke Method. Like, what percentage of deal flow for the VC comes from the business and vice versa? Like,
I don't actually have it broken down. It just all overlaps. That's the thing, where it's just all in the same ecosystem. So we're looking at tools all the time, and then those are getting thrown over, or they're coming directly into Ventures and they're throwing them over to Hawke Media to look at. Like, it's just all integrated. Like, it's the same way people ask me all the time, well, how do you split your time? I'm like, I don't split my time. It's all the same time. Working with partners, finding softwares for our clients, advancing our innovation in what we do, companies, all plays into the same thing. So it all works synergistically, thankfully. Like, it wasn't created as a side business. It was created as a complete complement to what we're already doing.
Is there a core mandate or a thesis to Hawke Ventures?
It's all MarTech, Ecomtech. It's all the tools that we use for our clients.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys are probably a great, early first 5 customer and case study for a lot of your.
And that's part of it.
Yeah.
And we can also make that decision because we know the landscape. Like, I got pitched a deal. I won't say what it was yesterday, but I've seen 17 of them. And I was like, this isn't, and I knew the founder. So I'm like, hey, listen, you might not want to march down this path. He was just getting started. Like, I know a bunch of these, none of them are that great. Because the market's not that great, this isn't a pain point. Like, everyone's trying to throw a solution without a problem here. and I've seen them a ton, and I've already we're not interested. So
yeah, does it have to check a tech box? Are you looking for a minimum gross margin, like a software margin, like that kind of 60, 70, 80% margin, or would you do like a consumer thing that could scale into a consumer growth as a follow along? Like a consumer.
I mean, we don't do consumer in that
No,
sense.
no.
That's a different, there's two different questions there. So the margin thing, not necessarily. We don't have to be at 80% gross margins. Obviously, great margins are great, but they're a business that's not attainable. We invested in Return Mates. It's a logistics business. It's probably not going to have 90% margins, but it's a great business, and they've already raised an up round, and they're doing great. And big fan of those guys. So it's not necessarily just tech. But consumer brands, that's where we can do their marketing, but that's not a strategic advantage. We'll do your marketing either way. The strategic advantage is our knowledge of what all companies need from their marketing services, their tech stack, all that. And we're investors in Klaviyo, PostScript, Tapcart, Faring, the major sort of Shopify ecosystem is what we play in.
Yeah. My brother-in-law, Julian Steinberg, he co-founded Alliance Consumer Growth. ACG, you probably know those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your name was there? I just saw her. Lauren Rinke was at Nike as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when I was talking to him about the business, his insight was that the consumer market is just, I don't remember the stat, but it was something like 10x larger, if not more, than the tech sector, just from a TAM point of view. So I think maybe that gets back to my thought about the margin profile. But I guess then that gets back to the strategic advantage. So just trying to understand a little bit.
Besides that, the TAM conversation is always funny because that's assuming you actually grab a large part of the TAM. It's also that much more crowded, that much lower barrier to entry, that much more enticing to founders to want to build a consumer brand because they feel more relation to it than a software company. There's a lot of reasons why consumer, and I'm an LP in a consumer fund called Family Fund that are great. So I do believe that consumer investing is interesting. I don't believe that I want to see strategic advantage to me would be investing alongside Walmart or someone that has a distribution. Whereas marketing, you're going to do your marketing, but that's not core. You need to have a good marketing partner, but we'll do that anyways. So that, us investing doesn't necessarily change that situation.
When you guys are advising Hawke Media clients in the context of your framework, awareness, nurturing, and trust, how much guidance and thought around strategic advantage are you guys working through with the clients?
So it depends. I mean, honestly, the strategic advantage side, from a marketing standpoint, it's more about putting out a great message and a differentiator. But at the end of the day, if it's a good product, it's really easy to market. If it's not a good product, it's really hard to market. And so that's where we're not doing product development. We're not coming up with their products. That is where that needs to be that core business. And so we put a megaphone on it. We leverage the channels right. We manage through best practices. We create a scalable, repeatable, predictable sort of marketing strategy. That's what we're focused on, is making sure that you set up all the things that allow you to scale. But we'll give feedback on if we're seeing things in the market about the product. I forgot, we had a client a little while ago that I know, they were complaining about the performance of advertising. Well, every single review on your site is horrible. You are not sending people the right products. You're not sending them on time. You're not taking care of your customers. This is not a problem with your advertising. There's a problem with your customer service. And your
value chain's broken.
Yeah. And so, and somehow that was news to them, which was kind of crazy. But the thing, we'll have those conversations in terms of strategy. And also, I think there's just a principle around don't build a business you don't have a strategic advantage in, because you're going to be up against someone that does. And so spend your career, spend your time figuring out, you mentioned when you joined Hunt Club, getting them into A16Z and these VCs. You knew those people already, right?
I didn't.
You didn't? Oh,
I didn't. Yeah. Okay. So this is my wife, Holden, has a friend named Alex, who co-founded 137 Ventures.
Yeah, I know Alex.
Yeah. And then great guy. And I was telling him what we're doing. And he's, you should talk to my head of platform. Alex introduced me to Christian Garrett, who was head of platform at the time. I think he's been since promoted. And he's like, there's this, love what you guys are doing. Because we were trying to do something different with Hunt Club. We were doing this kind of referral-based network. And I actually want to get into this discussion with you, because there's a thought here about transitioning from go to market to go to network. And that was sort of the thread we were pulling. And this is a great example of this, actually, a great case study. Christian is like, you know what? Yeah, you're a nice guy. I like you. It's interesting. And I think in the back of his mind, he's like, my boss referred, it's a friend, I should probably do this. And so he came up with an idea. It's like, hey, there's this VC talent group on LinkedIn, and all these VCs that are, larger VCs that have a talent function, they sit in this LinkedIn thing, and maybe I can throw a note in there and see if I could generate a lead.
Yeah.
Sure enough, I didn't. I was like, hey, that's a great idea. Thank you so much. Yeah. Sure as shit, 2 weeks later, an inbound from Sequoia Capital comes in. Yeah. And I said, guy, and it said VC talent thing. And I had logged it in the HubSpot, and I said, that's my lead. Yeah. And I ended up getting on the phone with Janine O'Neill, and then it was David Connors, who you know. Yeah. I looked him up on LinkedIn, and he was running their talent thing. And what we were doing at Hunt Club was very much in the context of what they were trying to do with this go to network stuff, like warm referrals. Yeah. And then so that was that. And we ended up selling them a software without a case study. And that opened up a big market or a bunch of other customers. And it was incredible. A16. So maybe another example. My buddy Robert Leschner, who co-founded Compound, the DeFi company, was one of A16's like darlings at the time, and he referred me into their talent team, and we started working with those guys. And so it was through the network.
So bad example on strategic advantage, good example on networking. But I guess the point is, if you're going to jump into something, you should have some proprietary knowledge or some connections to build a business. Yeah. I mean, if you don't, you're just going to have more headwind. There's plenty of success stories of people that didn't have some advantage, but having an advantage makes it a lot easier and a lot easier to bet on if you're an investor. I don't think investors look for this. I do. I look for why are these people going to be the ones to succeed? What about them? What about their background, their connections, whatever, their partners, whatever it is that gives them. And that's why I'm so adamant about like we invest in MarTech, Ecomtech, is because we can be that advantage too. We have access to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers for these companies. That's an advantage. That could check that box.
Yeah. When you're investing in, do you guys have a framework around how you qualify deals, like a deal qualifying framework, and there's a scorecard or anything?
Yeah. We have what Drew actually made it originally. It's called the FIST Fact, and it's just grading upon a 1 through 10 scale on a bunch of different categories, whether it's the founder and their background or the addressable market, the different components of what's put together, so we can actually identify like how do we feel about the different parts of this business and where do we feel the weak parts are and can we reconcile that? And that's we try. Again, it's still subjective, but we try to get it closer to objective in that way.
Yeah. What advice would you give to founders pitching? Like the one advice that you could, like the high level?
Oof.
Or like the biggest problem that you see that drives you, like, hey, if you guys just as a general class would just do this little 2 millimeter shift, it would make a big impact.
Yeah, I'm trying to think in the pitches, because like I don't really like to be pitched. I usually just have a conversation and want to understand. And it's not like don't fucking walk me through a deck. Like that's me though. So this is unique. People that want. I'll read your deck on my own. I want to talk to you like the things that come up with concern and go right at where I think the challenges are for the business, what concerns I have, and see how you answer them. And so I look for the holes in the business, and then look for someone that's already thought of it, already got it, understands it, and is definitely not defensive of it, but goes, has a thoughtful answer, even if I am catching them off guard with it. Yeah. But I also look again to invest in people that actually know what they're getting into, because that's what happens a lot too, is people try to start businesses and industries. I got a pitch the other day that I was like, there's like 6 of these that already exist. Like this is already solved. There's a ton of softwares that do exactly what you're saying you're going to do. And they didn't know about any of them. And it was like, okay.
Yeah. Immediate DQ on that one.
Yeah. So, knowing your market and what you're stepping into and having a background in it, big one. Like,
Well, I mean, to your point, that's the strategic advantage, right?
And obviously Mark Zuckerberg had no background. Like if people get, there's luck in being good that you can move fast enough, or there's a lot of luck in those. These companies that like they stumbled onto something that really worked out. But if I'm making bets where I need to have a return to my investors, I'm probably not making early stage bets on someone that doesn't know anything about their industry, but has a good idea, unless it's something super compelling that I'm like, I get it. This is important. And I think you're going to run through a wall and make it happen. And that's the other thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think what occurs to me about that is back to the Nike thing where they talk about an insight into the market, and that insight is probably has a lot of content and context around that strategic advantage. So, this is amazing. AI, big topic. It's kind of it blew up last year. I've been paying really close attention. I have a bunch of interesting bets in the public markets on some of these names that are doing pretty well. I think it's pretty obvious how it's changed the content game, and how there's some things that obviously it so relates to marketing. What are you most excited about? Any concerns?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to change. I think, and so we started building our own AI tool 9 years ago. We launched our own AI system a few months before ChatGPT launched. So we've been in the weeds of it for a long time. And so it's not like, a lot of people just woke up to it. We've been in this and we've watched the transition and we've been anticipating it. And it's going to be an interesting few years, because I think it's going to disrupt a lot of jobs. It's going to disrupt a lot of the ways people do things. It's kind of like the internet in a lot of ways. I think that's the best. I hate that crypto tried to say they're like the internet. It's bullshit. Like, this is actually like the internet in terms of innovation, in the sense of like, it's going to, I don't think it's going to be like there's a bunch of AI companies. I think it's going to be like every company is using AI, and how that ends up coming to form is going to be interesting. It already is. Yeah. And I think that, it's going to, the people that leverage it right are going to win, and there's going to be a lot of people left behind. But I also know that human adoption is much slower than we give it credit for. So there's time to adapt and to learn and to do things. And we're already, again, using it in a lot of ways, and we'll continue to look at how to leverage that side. But it's not, again, that's the positive and negative. The positive also, there's a utopian side of this that I actually think is legitimate, where it's like, this is going to free up a lot of the work nobody wants to do. Yeah. Especially with robotics and AI and everything. I don't know that hurts, like those jobs go away. But what has happened historically is when those jobs go away, it creates more production with less people, creates a better economy, which opens up new jobs and creative jobs and new opportunities. So for a specific individual that doesn't want to adapt or do anything new, they might be in trouble. But for the economy as a whole, it usually ends up being a good thing. And so I think it might be great. I mean, you look at the decrease in poverty over the past 30 years, the increase in food availability, the increase in potable water, the increase in all the general metrics of like overall global health are better and getting better in a drastic way. And that was a lot to do with technology. And now we have technology that's way more advanced than anything ever with this AI that can start to really solve problems, that can start to, diagnose cancer faster than any human could, can do all sorts of things because it can think so much faster and so much more efficiently and logically. I think that we're going to hit a point where that creates, true exponential innovation at a rate we've never seen before. And again, there's scary parts of that. Like, people kind of want consistency. And I heard this the other day. I read this in a book that I loved called The Psychology of Money, about, the economists in the world absolutely never predict the future of the economy correctly. It like never, ever, 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 ever happens. We never predict the future of the economy. Yet we all listen to these people all the time, and we're always trying to predict the future of the economy because people want to have some sense of control. And to actually admit that we have no fucking clue is terrifying to people. But the truth is, we have no clue what's going to happen. And so just being ready to be adaptable, being comfortable, being uncomfortable is a big part of it. And I think AI is really going to have a part of it.
Amen. Yeah. It's the system's too complex.
Yeah.
I guess kind of clicking back, how do you stay so high energy? I know I kind of following along. You're like, you're doing, it seems like you're kind of experimenting with a lot of the, new science that might be coming on the market and stuff like that, messing around with, I don't know, some of these, like, I could be wrong, but I thought I saw you like doing like, this kind of like potion or this sort of thing.
Oh, that thing. Yeah, no, that was just literally, by the way, I was taking vitamin C, fish oil, and B12. Like, no, it wasn't
basic stuff.
For the audience, I did literally a 12-hour trip to Barcelona, like 12 hours in Barcelona. I flew there to this beach conference, jumped on a plane and flew back. And a friend of mine started a company called FlyKit that's basically a vitamin regimen and discipline to help you not get jet lag and to get through a trip like that. And he does it with major athletes or professional athletes and celebrities and all sorts of stuff. And so I recorded it because I thought it'd be fun to record all the different vitamins I'm taking over time and, sticking to this protocol. But yeah, it wasn't that experimental. It was pretty fairway vitamins.
Yeah. And
wellness is a part of what I pay attention to. I'm not, I know I have the same last name, but I'm not Andrew Huberman here, but I do try to keep a healthy lifestyle, and that helps. But I will say, I heard this the other day. I wish I could give credit to who said it, because I like giving credit, but it was like a random reels that popped up on my Instagram, but it was so true. And it's, people talk about like, I get up at 3 a.m, I work out, like Rob Beardeck, who I do love, Mark Wahlberg, who I don't know well, they have these regimens where they're up at 3, working out, podcasting, meditating, cold plunging, eating this, and then getting to work. They work for 10 hours and they go and read to the kids and they have this crazy thing where they're sleeping like, 6 to 8 hours a night, but they have this and they're constantly go. And do I believe that they are actually built differently? No, I don't. And what I think is, and I've experienced this myself, it is really, really, really easy to find the energy when you feel like your time is gaining momentum and you're on the upswing and everything is going well. That energy comes really easily. It really does. And I've had it thankfully a lot, where it's like when I feel like I'm winning and I feel like that next meeting is another opportunity to push the ball forward. And every time I push the ball forward, it takes another step without me. And there's a lever on my time and everything's working, especially as a founder. It's so easy to find the energy. I don't need sleep. Like when people say, I only slept 3-4 hours a night when I was starting my company. It's because you felt the momentum and you're excited. When you're excited, it's easy. The opposite is not. And so that's where I think, you, lack of a better word, you separate the men from the boys, so to speak. It's like, when things aren't moving, you don't have the tailwinds, and every company goes through this.
Yes.
And you're watching a decline in revenue, which, if you give it 30 years, you're going to happen. And like all these things are going on. How you push yourself through that when you don't have the energy, that's really what creates longevity. But honestly, when things are good, which thankfully most of the time they're at least moderately good in most businesses, it doesn't, you go through a small downswing, then things are pretty stable. That I'd say is good. Then they come up and you get these spikes and valleys, but a lot of times it's pretty level. When you're not going through it, when you're going through a downswing, hanging on, pushing through all those kind of things is really critical. Meaning, when I say downswing, I don't necessarily mean a decline in business. I just mean things are
tough. Yeah. Some challenges. Some kind of it's not a tailwind. It's a side wind or a headwind. You're gonna have
I'd say specifically headwinds. Side winds are okay. You get kind of bored, but you might not get. You might not lose that energy. But then you get back to that tailwind, and it's just like take over the world. Yeah. And it sucks that it's external in that way, but I've seen it with a lot of founders. Like you watch it in their faces, you see it in the way they talk. When things are good, they're excited. Their energy's there. You hear it in their voice, etc. And when things are tough, you got to still wake up every morning and do it and get through it. But one of my other favorite lines is there was some roundtable I watched with like Tom Hanks and Shia LaBeouf was there and a few other people. It was funny, but they asked Tom like what his favorite motto is or anything. Tom Hanks, and he says, "This too shall pass." Things are going great. Everything's up and to the right. Yeah. Like you're got that big win, got that award. This too shall pass. Everything's tough, falling apart. You're in the dirt. This too shall pass. And I think during those tough times, remembering this too shall pass and grinding through it is really important, because then those upswings, the energy comes back and you're having a great time.
Yeah. Andrew Huberman and I went to UCSB together. We were in the same class.
Did you a heavy lifter with him?
No, I wasn't. No. But, it was a fun class. We had Jack Johnson, the singer, in the class. It was a great crew. And I follow his protocol, getting the sunshine in the eyes and waiting 2 hours to drink the coffee and pretty much cutting out alcohol to a bare minimum. And
by the way, I don't drink coffee or alcohol, but I had no idea that had to do with his protocol.
Oh yeah, it's fundamental.
Yeah. No coffee, no alcohol, no added sugar. I've kind of cut. But that's, the first two are pretty long time. Sugar is more recent, but it's hard. We grew up in a society that all these things are like, these are things we're taught are like fun things to do and part of life. And you just take it for granted. And then you realize like, wait, let's question this for a second. Like alcohol is just poison. You feel like shit. Like I did plenty of it in college and post, but coffee, same thing, total drug. I don't know how we don't call it that, but like and for people that it works. For me, I'm super sensitive, so I don't go in. But like, yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious to see what happens to those industries over time as people are more aware of this stuff, because I know they're all looking to pivot, but in the NA market's really interesting. But yeah, back to the point. These protocols help. They do make it so, especially again, when things are up, eat whatever you want, do whatever you want. You have all the energy in the world. But when things are tough and you're going through stressful times, having your health is where you get through that a lot better. You can have a lot more grit.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great segue and kind of rounding third base and keep an eye on time. One of the counter melody for the show is humanizing success. And I shared some personal stuff before we hit record. And the principle I sort of believe in is that the bigger the breakdown, the bigger the breakthrough. And is there a challenge that you've gone through professionally or personally that you're comfortable sharing? And how did you get over the hurdle, and what gift did that challenge or pain give you?
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, my dad had just died early from cancer. And in the same week, I found out, and I can't share too much, but I had a lot of people internally at my company that had been lying to me and created a lot of problems. While we also had a frivolous lawsuit brought to us, it was a complete lie. While my mom called me and told me she needed a kidney, while our taxes had been misfiled, et cetera, like 17 things at once. And I always do when the problems come in. I tried to solve all of them at once and spent weeks grinding. And about a month later, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, was just in the worst mental, physical place I could have possibly been. And I didn't even know. I kept explaining to my wife, I feel like I'm a squirrel that just got chased by a lion and survived. The lion's gone, but I'm shaking. And I physically feel like I'm shaking. Yeah. And finally, I kept saying this. My wife goes, "You mean you're anxious?" And I realized I literally had never experienced anxiety in my life until 2 years ago. Ever. And it took, 9 months before I started feeling normal again and understood the mental health challenge. And that's why I was saying some of the stuff about grinding through. I'm pretty open about it too, because I'm what do I say? I respect the people that haven't experienced it, like meaning like good for you. Like that's awesome, because I've broken many bones. I'm an extreme sports guy. That is the most painful thing I've ever gone through by far. Like that was a scary period that I was, thankfully it improved over time, and I was confident it would get better and better and better. And I'm good now and out of it. But like, God, the feeling of that and the fact that people deal with this for a long period of time, I was able to fix a lot of things, make the business. You asked how I got out of it. Is like, first off, empathy for the mental health challenge became, oh, wow. I always respected it, even though I didn't understand it. And then understanding it on another level, I'm like, oh, wow, got it. And then from there, it also just all the lessons from the individual challenges, like trust but verify in your business. Like, I remember one advisor, and I love having harsh people around me. I want people to give it to me straight. And I told an advisor what I was going through, and he's like, "Weren't you like snowboarding like 30 days that winter?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "So you took a long vacation, took your eye off shit, came back and realized the part. Welcome back to working. Get back to work. You'll be fine." And he actually also said, because there were some business challenges too. He's like, when a lot of businesses go through it, in the next year, a lot of times go bankrupt. But a lot survive too. So we'll see what happens. Like, Jesus. And again, it worked out for us perfectly fine. We fixed everything. It ended up working out. But it was like, but that mental struggle that was honestly irrational in some, like the initial hit was there. But again, it carried on for 9 months when all those problems were, my mom is great. Oh, and my wife was 6 months pregnant at the time too. Again, there was a whole list of.
Yeah. I remember you were pretty public about some of that stuff. And I remember sending you a DM or a text about your dad passing. And I can't imagine that. So sorry that happened. And I having said that, like, it sounds like the gift of empathy that you already had was sort of just, expanded a bit.
Yeah. And I'd say that, but also like now understanding how to take care of myself too. Like I ran through a wall for decades. And then it was like, oh, wow, that's my limit. When this much can fall apart at once, like now I know. And like how to take care of yourself. Like for those 9 months that I was still going through some of it, and I'd wake up, I'd just be anxious some days. I'd just be looking for the thing that was going to, the next shoe to drop, the thing that's going to fall apart, which a lot of people, again, deal with all the time. For me, it was very new. I had days where I took sick days because I felt mentally sick. I was like, I am not going to be effective. I'm going to be a drain on the team. I'm going to take the day off and rest. And that rest, I learned that rest was a big part in getting good sleep and focusing on that and taking care of myself. Like all these things really mattered. And then it just got better and better and better.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I think is an important lesson is, that kind of experience is, lack of a better word, I call it a brain injury. Like it took time and repair and intentional work to get better and to get back to where I felt like I was back in the zone that I was in for, again, years, that I got back there because I went, I had to do the work, which is a cliche and kind of like a weird thing to say. Because I always, when people said do the work, air quotes, I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? But there's a lot of ways to work on it that you can be more resilient, get through that stuff. And in the meantime, I grinded. I didn't want to. I dreaded working. Nothing had changed. I turned down 6 months before that, I turned down an insane offer to sell Hawke because I never wanted to do anything different. And 6 months later, I was dreading waking up for work every day. But I still did it, and I grinded through it. And then again, it got better and better. And now I'm so glad I'm here. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate the candor. Great story. I know we're at time. 2 quick rapid fire questions, and we'll let you go. If you could have any band, artist, rapper, musician play any venue in the world, past, present, or future, who would it be and where?
So definitely Rage Against the Machine. They just said they'll never play together again, which sucks, but I hope to see them. I hope they change their mind. And venue, I don't know. I think like my backyard.
Love it. That'd be epic. And then if people want to get a hold of you, what's a good channel?
Just any social platform, @Erik Huberman. Send me a note. I'm always happy to connect.
Erik, you're the Ubermensch. It's so great to see you. So lucky to have you in the Los Angeles community and beyond. And I'm excited that hopefully you got some new fans today.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We'll stay close. Again, to my friend Erik Huberman for being our guest. I am so excited to continue to track Erik's meteoric rise. And I encourage you to reach out to his team if they can be helpful to you. I'm at Curdy D on Twitter and Instagram, also Kurt Derricks on LinkedIn. If the content moved you, please do give us a rating and review or smash that like button. It does really help me, and I so appreciate it. And until next time, Curdy D loves you.